Welcome back, people. We are back at the Bettor's Edge with a limited but interesting slate of games on this Thursday night. Before we get started, guys, let's start. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let's start with the Thursday night football on the gridiron. You got the Minnesota Vikings on the road getting 3.5 points at the Los Angeles Chargers. There is a lot to dissect in this game, guys. If you're thinking about betting on either side here. And let's talk about why that is. First and foremost, in a nutshell, in a vacuum, the Minnesota Vikings plus 3.5 points, in my opinion, is not an accurate representation of these two teams. There's no way, in my opinion, the LA Chargers, with how poorly they're playing right now, should be laying 3.5 points against the Minnesota Vikings. However, it's not that cut and dried. Minnesota Vikings are on short rest, as are the LA Chargers, but they're having to travel from Minnesota to LA for this game. There's not a ton of prep time for either team to get ready for this game. Both of these teams just played on Sunday. When you factor in recovery into the equation in order for these players to be ready to go to play again tonight, there's very limited, if any, practice that's actually involved. With that said, guys, when you're talking about backing the Minnesota Vikings on a short week, you have to have a team that you trust. The reason why I say that, and it hasn't transpired this way so far this season, but data up until this point on Thursday night, road teams, road dogs, really struggle in these matches historically. They get blown out oftentimes, and I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if that happens to the Vikings tonight, and I'll explain to you why. The Vikings have Carson Wentz at quarterback. He's a mistake waiting to happen. It can be a sack that he takes that he shouldn't take because the play breaks down and he's not capable of making something happen out of nothing more times than not. It could be a pick six that goes other way. It could be a fumble six that goes other way. Whatever the case is, Carson Wentz is a mistake waiting to happen. You're going to get a mistake from him this week. I assure you that. Whether that cost them the game or cost them the spread remains to be seen. He had a pick six just last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not going to sit here and say that cost them the game, but it obviously didn't help them win that game. Carson Wentz is not a good player. In addition to that, their best offensive lineman, Christian Darrisaw, is now questionable to play. I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if this line jumped from 2.5 to 3.5 because Darrisaw isn't going to play tonight. He's questionable, and typically a questionable designation leads you to believe that he's going to play. So that might not be the case as far as why the line moved. But if Darrisaw can't go, that's a massive, massive injury for this team. I typically don't put that much weight into one offensive lineman missing a game. But in this situation, it carries a lot of weight. He's their best offensive lineman by a mile. In addition to that, Carson Wentz is an awful quarterback against pressure. And if the LA Chargers can get pressure with their front four without having to blitz, Carson Wentz is going to have a very, very long night because he is not good when the play breaks down. He's terrible when the play breaks down. As I mentioned, in a nutshell, the Minnesota Vikings plus 3.5 to me would be a play if this game was on Sunday and if I knew Darrisaw was playing for sure. However, neither of those are the case. I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever, and this is not a play, it's not even a lean, wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if Darrisaw doesn't end up playing that the Minnesota Vikings really get the brakes beaten off of them tonight. With that said, there is an edge in this game that I do like. Both of these teams struggle offensively. Both of these teams are very good defensively. Both of these teams are borderline elite red zone defenses. I think what you're going to see tonight, especially early, is both teams struggle to find the end zone. And if Darrisaw can't go, and even if he can go, but if he can't go, it's going to help this play even more. You have a first half here total that's sitting at 22.5. This game is going to go under 22.5 in the first half. I'm telling you that right now. The game is going under 22.5 in the first half. The Minnesota Vikings are an atrocious team in the first half as far as scoring points. I think in the last 3 or 4 weeks combined, I don't think they have one game where they've exceeded 10 points in the first half. And this Vikings defense is elite at keeping teams out of the end zone. I wouldn't be shocked if both teams are able to move the ball up and down the field. And then once they get into the red zone, the scoring area, both teams are settling for field goals, especially early in the game. What does that tell me? What that tells me is looking, line shopping at different books, you can get the under 23.5 at minus 140. It's today's play of the day. It's the best bet on the board. Vikings, Chargers, first half only, under 23.5 points. I think the full game goes under, but the Vikings typically score a lot of points in the second half, as do a lot of teams in the NFL. And taking full game unders in the NFL, especially in this day and age, is a little bit dicey. I try to stay away from it. But there's an edge here on the first half of both of these teams to keep their opposition out of the end zone early and have this number go under 23.5 in the first half. That's the best bet on the board. It's a 2-play under for the first half on the gridiron this evening. Let's get into the NBA. I want to talk a little bit about the NBA tonight. First game on the board, you got the Oklahoma City Thunder minus 7.5 on the road at the Indiana Pacers. Obviously have an NBA Finals rematch, if you want to call it that. These are the two teams from the NBA Finals from last season that are meeting again. Obviously, Halliburton isn't going to be able to go. I talked about the Oklahoma City Thunder the other night at home against the Houston Rockets. The game went about exactly as I expected it to go. The only difference was the Rockets gave them a little bit more of a game than I anticipated. I knew it was going to be a game for about 3 quarters or so. I thought the Thunder would pull away in the fourth. They won the second half. They won the fourth quarter. They ended up winning the game, but they didn't cover the spread. I think 7.5 points in this game is a little bit too much. I lean towards the Indiana Pacers with their familiarity. They're going to come out with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because they lost the NBA Finals. They have more to prove in this game than the Oklahoma City Thunder have to prove. And I think you're going to see the Indiana Pacers at home give the Thunder, like we saw over the course of a 7-game series last time, all that they can handle. I know, as I mentioned already, Halliburton isn't playing, but I do think the Indiana Pacers have enough to keep this game within 7 points. Let's talk about the second NBA game tonight, which in the NBA is my game of the day. It's not a bigger play than the NFL first half under, but it's the play of the day in the NBA. You're getting the Golden State Warriors minus 2.5 at home against the Denver Nuggets. A lot of people are looking at this Nuggets team like they're an NBA title contender, like they're an elite team in the NBA, and they are. They're a fantastic team. But I talked about this Warriors team going into LA prior to their first game, and I talked to you guys about how kind of efficient this team was once Jimmy Butler joined the ranks. I think Jimmy Butler went for 31 the other night in LA, and they ended up beating the Lakers rather easily. They're now playing their first home game in Golden State in front of that crowd. The crowd's going to be up for this game, as they always are. It's one of the biggest and best home court advantages in the NBA, and you're getting the Warriors tonight at minus 2.5. I don't think there's a massive massive difference between these two teams as much as many others think. I think a lot of people are considering the Nuggets as one of the best teams in the Western Conference, and they are, but I think a lot of people are forgetting about the Golden State Warriors. I don't think the Warriors are that far behind this Nuggets team. This Warriors team, since they acquired Jimmy Butler, is somewhere in the neighborhood of like 21 or 22-2 since they had Jimmy Butler on their team. And he's been balling out of control for them since he's joined. As I mentioned, he dropped 31 for them the other night. I don't see the Nuggets coming into Golden State tonight on their home opener, on the road, and beating the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, all they have to do is cover 2.5. I don't see them covering that either. Give me the Golden State Warriors minus 2.5 at home tonight to beat the Denver Nuggets and extend their win streak now to 2 games, if you will, and start the season 2-0. Guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel. As I keep mentioning, we're slowly but surely growing this thing. I'm giving you guys winners each and every single day. The play of the day and all sports for today is the under in the NFL game, first half, minus under 23.5, minus 140. That's the play of the day on the entire card. Second bet for today is the Golden State Warriors, minus 2.5. We're going to cash both of these tickets, guys. Enjoy the games. I'll catch you tomorrow for a massive, absolutely massive prediction in the upcoming World Series between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays.